Welcome to The Explainer, where today we're breaking down a major new development in the war in Ukraine. Something just happened that, honestly, almost nobody saw coming. For the very first time, all three key players, that's the US, Russia, and Ukraine, are actually coming to the negotiating table. For nearly 4 long years, this brutal conflict has raged on. And now, out of the blue, we get this announcement. It's a fragile, yeah, but maybe, just maybe, a pivotal shift.
And I really can't stress this enough. This is the very first time since the war began that representatives from the United States, Ukraine, and Russia are scheduled to actually sit down together. These three-way talks have been a complete non-starter until now.
Okay, so let's dive into what's going on. What exactly is this meeting? How in the world did it come about so suddenly? And really, why is it such a big deal right now?
So here's what we know. The talks were announced right after a private meeting between the American and Ukrainian presidents. President Zelensky called his one-on-one discussion productive and substantive, and he seems to be hoping this new three-way format could finally lead to some compromises. He even said that everyone, not just Ukraine, has to be willing to find some middle ground.
But, to really get a handle on the stakes here, and why this is all happening now, we need to listen to the people who've been watching this conflict from day one.
John Herbst, who used to be the U.S. ambassador to Ukraine, thinks this is a genuine, even if cautious, step in the right direction. I mean, for years, Russia has flat out refused to meet like this. So the very fact that it's happening at all is, as he puts it, a step forward.
And that, of course, brings us to the million-dollar question. After all this time, after so many refusals, why would Putin say yes now? What's changed?
Well, according to Ambassador Herbst, one theory is that Putin's kind of been backed into a corner. He's already rejected several proposals from the US president, and maybe, just maybe, he feels like saying no one more time could have consequences he doesn't want to deal with.
But let's pump the brakes for a second. Agreeing to show up for a meeting is one thing. Actually hammering out a peace deal, that's a whole other ballgame. And right now, there are two massive, fundamental hurdles standing in the way.
So let's get into the first and maybe the toughest obstacle of them all, the land itself. I mean, this is the absolute heart of the entire conflict.
You don't have to take my word for it. President Zelensky himself could not have been more blunt. When he was asked about what stands in the way of a peace deal, he basically said it all boils down to one thing: territory. And check this out, because this is the core strategic problem right here. Russia is demanding the Western Donbass, a region that is super fortified and one that they haven't been able to take by force. So, if Ukraine were to just hand that over, look what happens. They'd be exposing all that flat, unfortified land just to the west. It would basically leave the rest of the country wide open to a future attack. It's a strategic nightmare. Okay, so beyond the actual lines on a map, there's another equally thorny issue. And that's what happens after the fighting stops. We're talking about long-term security. And this really shows you the deadlock they're in. On one hand, you have Ukraine and the US, who seem to be finding some common ground. There are reports the US has agreed to the concept of 15-year security guarantees. But then you look at Russia's position, and it's a hard no. Moscow is against any US guarantees, any European troops, any foreign involvement at all. The two sides are on completely different planets here.
So when you've got these huge obstacles over land and security, what are we supposed to make of all this? What's the real takeaway from this surprise announcement?
Look, here's the bottom line. This meeting is, without a doubt, a big deal. It's historic. It is a potential step forward. But, and this is a huge but, the fundamental disagreements that started this whole war in the first place, they are still there. The core issues of who controls the land and what security looks like tomorrow are completely up in the air.
Which leaves us with the one critical question hanging over everything. Is this a real opening for peace, or is it just the first move in a new, more complicated diplomatic chapter of this war? Honestly, only time and these talks will give us the answer.